Kevin Vermon. I work for First Five Alameda County, co-founder of the Alameda County Fathers Corps. This is the Fatherhood Partnership. And for those who don't know, the Fatherhood Partnership is focused on building the capacity of organizations to offer father-specific parenting education and support groups. And at this point, it's about offering virtual father specific parenting education and support groups. And that is what our topic of the training today is. We've got some amazing panelists that are going to be a big part of today's discussion who are currently doing the work, who are on the ground, engaging and supporting fathers virtually. And we think it's important to hear from them because they are doing what we are here to train you to do. And Dara, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Yay! Everyone, thank you for being here. I just want to have a fun time. I think we need to have more fun, even though everything is very serious, which probably means we need fun more now than ever. I'm Dara from DDG Training and Consulting. I work with Kevin in the Father Corps to just support what they're doing. And today we're going to be talking about best practices for facilitating father groups, and we're going to focus on the virtual nature of how father groups have to be right now and into, I guess, the foreseeable future for a while. And after coronavirus, I'm thinking that a lot of our groups are going to remain virtual because or hybrids or whatever, because there are opportunities, and we'll talk about that. I'm going to share my screen, and I just want to say too that I want this to be pretty, let's see, some structure, but also just like kind of informal, right? This is a gathering, it's a training to kind of get some information and skills on what we're doing and building our capacity. But I also want you to, if you have a question at any time, stop, put things in the chat. Really, this is more like a kitchen table talk around what we can do, how we're doing things, and what we can do better. So can everyone see my screen or no?
Yes.
All right, cool. All right. I always get nervous around screen sharing. All right, so we are going to get started as soon as that all. It's a blank screen now, huh? So here we go. So I never like to assume that people know how to do Zoom. So if you have been working on Zoom, you know how to use the controls and all that, just give me a raise your hand or go and use the raise your hand feature. So I know that everybody is pretty comfortable on Zoom already. That would be perfect if you could do that. Also, for those of you who are not showing your face or on video, it's very hard to have an interactive conversation and engaging gathering when I'm just looking at black boxes. So if you are able to show your face just even for a minute so we know you're there and you're going to be able to engage, we're going to be using breakout rooms. We're going to be asking for interactivity. And as a facilitator, you're facilitators. So you know how it is to facilitate a group of black boxes. So just pretty much asking you to extend the same kind of, golden rule that you would like people to have when they come to your trainings. Just putting that out there. So try to be present as much as you can. I know there's lots going on, people working from home, kids running around, dogs barking, spouses asking you to put stuff in the dishwasher. I get it. So do what you need to do. Get a beverage, get something to eat if you need to, find something to help you center yourself. You might also want to take some notes, feel free. So before we keep going, I just want to offer just a minute for us to just kind of ground ourselves. Hopefully I don't think I turned on the sound. I'm pretty sure I didn't.
Dara, before we get started, can we just do a quick poll regarding the mini grants, please?
Great timing. Yes.
Yes. So last week we had a information session for a mini grant funding opportunity that the Fathers Corps and First Five are providing this year. And we just have a few questions to get a little bit more information from you folks that are on the call. So really short, I think it's 3 or 4 questions. So Virve, can you go ahead and launch the poll really quickly? And folks, can you spend a minute or so responding to these questions? Okay, and let me give some information really quick. Fathers Corps is offering mini grants this year for fatherhood partnership participating organizations. You can find the mini grant application on the Fathers Corps webpage if you are interested in applying. It's not a lot of money. It's only $4,500, but the application is reflective of the amount of money. So it's not some big extensive grant application. So if you are interested, please visit the Fathers Corps webpage to find out what the eligibility requirements and the few questions. The application, we only want 2 to 3 pages as far as responses are concerned. And if you are interested, please take a look at that application. If you have questions, feel free to contact me via email, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you guys for responding to the poll.
Okay. So just a little moment to ground ourselves, and hopefully you'll be able to hear. And I'm going to ask someone to put their sound on mute. I'm hearing a little bit of background noise.
That was probably me. Sorry.
Okay, now that we're all grounded and settled, I would be remiss if I didn't ask our panel today to just kind of raise your hand and quickly introduce yourselves. This panel has been running virtual father groups throughout the pandemic, and we will be leaning on their expertise and experience throughout today's training. So kind of just who would like to start? Let's start with Abdi. Abdi, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dara and Kevin and Virve for inviting me. My name is Abdi. I'm from Hayward Unified School District. Shout out to Eduardo and Jocelyn for joining us today and the rest of the partnership. Yeah, I'm
Thank
happy to
you.
talk about working with fathers and look forward to a nice discussion.
Thank you. Let's go to Chris.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Gibson. I'm with Alameda County Fatherhood Initiative. I'm also the lead coordinator for Cafe Dad virtual fathers groups. And I say groups with an S because we just launched our Spanish speaking fathers group. Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you guys for having me to impart what I've learned since April of 2020.
Thank you, Chris. Let's go to Mike.
Good dawn, everyone. I'm Mike Lewis. I am a fatherhood specialist and parent educator for Family Paths. And again, just like Abdi and Chris said, thank you, Kevin, Dar, Virve, for this opportunity to express what I've been learning along with my team, who's on here too, Julie, Otis, Juan. I'm really grateful to them as well because all the minds collectively assist with what I'm able to bring forth today.
Thank you, Mike. And last but not least, Otis.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Otis Ward, and today I am representing my community-based organization, which is Ward and Associates, where we offer a wide variety of community-based services, financial literacy, homeownership assistance, small business assistance. We offer a wide variety of services, but also I work with Family Paths as a fatherhood specialist. I also teach their parent ed classes, and I work for Alameda Alliance for Health. I do community outreach for the Alliance. I'm just really happy to be here, and anything that I can share as we all fell into this world called Zoom and this virtual reality world we're living in. So we all learn from one another, iron sharpened iron, and I'm just glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So we already kind of went over Zoom. If you could raise your hand, and then we know that everybody go into that participant panel, raise your hand. This is everything that I'm doing for you is kind of examples of what we could be doing with the dads and the fathers as they get familiar with Zoom. So here's an agenda, but I do reserve the right to leave things off the agenda, all right, and move things around, all right, because we know how that goes. So we're just gonna welcome and set up intro, goals and agenda review, preparation, recruitment and outreach, facilitation tips, strategies for engaging virtual meetups and groups, and materials and next steps. So in the chat box, if you could go to the chat and answer these questions, I would like to know who's here beside our panelists. I am familiar with many of you on the screen, but some of you may not be familiar with each other. So if you could just go into the chat and put your name, your position, where you work, and one thing you love about your job. So if you could go ahead and put those things in the chat, that would be amazing. And I'm going to keep going while you do that. Here's another question. Don't put this in the chat though. Okay. We're going to use interactive slides today. How many of you have ever used interactive slides? All right. So this is one of the things that we definitely can use with the dads. So I'm going to put a link to the interactive slides here, and you are going to go to the very first page, and you're going to answer while you're here, / what are your goals for for our time together. So I put the link in the chat. You're going to click on that link. You're going to open up in a different tab. This link is going to open up in a different tab, and then you're going to put why you're here and the goals that you have for our time together today. So I'm going to give you a minute to go over to there, and then you can start putting your goals in there, and we can watch you as you do it. So you're going to go to the first page, and I see people, anonymous elephant, learning llama. Okay. And if you cannot open the link or get to the Google interactive slide, go ahead and put your answer for this in the chat, and Virve or Kevin will put the answer for you into the interactive slide. All right, learn how to recruit more dads and fathers, learn from others' experiences, learn new tips, learn how to facilitate virtually, to continue learn about providing virtual workshops, learn from the experts. Oh, too much pressure. To continue to learn different ways to help fathers get info that I can use, network. All right. We have people still going in. Leave these open because we're going to use them a couple more times in our time together. So it's nice to have an idea why people are showing up and what you would like to learn during our time together. All right, so I'm going to go really quickly through the PowerPoint presentation I put together because I really want to get to our panel. They are the stars for today. They are the experts, and they have been doing this, so we really want to hear from them. So I organized this in a couple of phases. So the preparation phase is the first phase when we want to be effectively facilitating dads groups. So that's about several things, but the highlights are identifying a male facilitator or male co-facilitator. How important is that? Who would like to answer? You're on mute, Kevin.
Very, very important. If you are running fathers groups, it is important to have a male in front of the room. And if you don't have a male staff person that can facilitate these your groups, we have numerous Fathers Corps members who are very skilled and can help you with that. But we also suggest if you can identify a leader within your group to co-facilitate with you. So that's it.
Mm-hmm. Prepare staff and coworkers for welcoming dads. So right now, large groups of dads will not be showing up to any particular place because we're still in shelter at home. But it's also important that we let our staff know and coworkers know that we have groups going on for dads specifically, and to engage internally. So when people are engaged with dads in their work, they can refer them to our groups. Operationalizing these father-friendly principles that we all know about. How are we doing that in our organization? And then how can we provide incentives to the participants, especially right now when people need things? And so how can we use that to get dads to come? So the second phase is outreach and recruitment. And there's Michael there, if you didn't notice. I did that on purpose. So outreach and recruitment. Who do we want to come to the groups? What kind of dads? What kind of father figures? Is it all dads, all father figures, or are we being specific? That's one of the questions you need to answer. You need to have a plan for your outreach. You need to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Flyers are not enough, especially right now. Flyers on its own, emails on its own is not sufficient. Promote your fatherhood groups internally with the people that you work with the people that you have relationships with at other organizations and agencies. Recruiting new fathers and fathers who have different experiences, right? Reach out to where men and fathers already are. Where, somebody answer this, besides seeing what you see here, where are dads still going? Where do you see fathers? Someone answer.
I'll go. Yeah, my name is Abdi from HUSD. So we're currently in virtual distant learning, and it's really hard to catch fathers that way, whether it's with phone calls or emails. And parents already say they get enough, bombarded with enough emails and phone calls. They don't want to receive anymore. What the school does is we have disbursement days where we distribute laptops and computers and stuff for the school. So I try to take advantage of that. So when there's days where there's in-person social distancing, of course, that's when I show up and try to make that connection, in-person connection.
Thank you, Abdi. Anyone else?
To add to that, grocery stores, they still got to go get food, and if the wife is pregnant, trust me, dad is going to the grocery store. So grocery stores is another one.
Unfortunately, I've been seeing a lot of dads down at Lake Merritt in the Oakland area. And so, yeah, I've been seeing a lot that are there. I think that they had a lot of different vendors that was out there, and a lot of people was, just kind of like tired of being cooped up in the house and so on. But I've seen a lot of dads out at the lake.
Yeah, I was gonna say equally so. Always considering places where their essential needs or their where fathers continue to go. Like you said, grocery stores. Also considering the fact I don't go there that much, but barbershops are still in operation. So considering locations like that are always big parks. They still see dads at the same time. Even though a lot of them are shut down because things are opening up, there's opportunities at parks too if you run into people.
All right, thank you.
And Anthony from the library posted in the chat food distribution sites as well,
yes,
aligned with the grocery store idea, the food distribution sites, unfortunately. And if you do go to the lake to meet dads, please wear your mask.
And stay 6 feet.
Yes. Yes.
So then when you go to Lake Merritt, or if the dads are at the school or wherever they are in person, one of the next things is, what is your compelling message for why a dad should show up to your group? What are you saying to dads that's gonna come learn how to be a better dad? That's too corny. Nope, they not coming. What needs to be said? What is your pitch? What is your little, because you can't talk a lot. What's your little 30-second elevator pitch to get a dad to your group? Anybody want to answer that one?
I'll go. I think I have it easy on that one. I work at a school, and every parent wants to be part of their child's education. So for me, that's the go-to is, kids who have fathers involved in their life do better in school. And parents always want their kids to do better. So, yeah.
All right, Abdi, thank you. Who else?
Yeah, I usually just say, would you like to connect to a brotherhood of men, of fellas that's trying to support and uplift the community? And so that's my first pitch before I get into anything else.
One of the sell pitches that I actually do are, we have various incentives, and I can name off some of those incentives to some of the guys. Could they use a Target gift card? Could they use any type of baby strollers or anything like that we do have in our organization? But you have to participate in our boot camp for new dads, or Cafe Dad, or become a member of our Fatherhood Initiative program.
So just remember, just feel the energy of when these messages were given by Abdi, Otis, and Reggie. What that felt like, that we need to invoke a feeling and images when we are trying to connect people to come to something that they don't really need to, they don't have to go to, right? Unless they're involved with child welfare and all that. This is not mandated, right? So how do we compel people to turn on Zoom instead of turning on CNN?
I'd like to add to that.
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I think, when you engage people and you're asking them to participate in something they haven't done before, they kind of have this vision that, it's going to be much more difficult, technology, maybe they have problems with technology. Maybe they don't no, so I try to make it easy for them. Say, it's hour commitment, or it's like 1 hour meeting. I try to break it down, and I try to take away the fear, and like I try to take away the apprehension, and just make it very, very easy. You can join by phone, you can join, you know, remotely, and just try to make it easier for them to join.
Mm-hmm. That's really important.
Yeah, and now there's no pressure where before, we was asking them to come to a specific location. Now they can do it from the comfort of their own home, which should make it a lot easier, and making it as uncommitted process as possible, right? I'm not going to ask you to come for 12 weeks straight. I just want you to come to one group, and if I can get them to come to one group, I can hook them.
Yeah.
Usually I try to get away from identifying it as a class, or I talk about the fatherhood as a movement. And I think with all the different movements that we got going on now, and I start talking about, uplifting the community. When I first joined the Fathers Corp, and I talked to Kevin and Gary, and we started talking about the movement of the fatherhood initiative. It really inspired me and got me wanting to try to make a difference. So
language is so important. So not saying it's a class, a workshop, a training, a flyer came through a few months ago. It said virtual dad lounge. I was like, oh, lounge. I might like lounge. For me, I'm from the Midwest. A lounge is kind of like a smoky little bar where I'm from. And so just like, okay, where you lounge. So our language around this is very, very important. Go ahead, Mike.
I was also going to say, don't also consider, your connectivity or the intersectionality within the conversation that you have. So for instance, we figure out different things that we all like or have in common, and the conversation amidst that, where you connect, and like, even, not everybody's in all sports, but just say, man, did you hear about the game? Man, yeah, it's crazy. I'll be trying to watch it when my kids be sitting, man, mine too. Oh, you know what? I got this little thing. You should consider, maybe not in that same flow, but just figuring out ways of communication and to get those shameless plugs.
Shameless plugs, and inserting yourself in conversations where these kids get on my nerves. I'll be glad when this corona is over. All right. And you slide and be like, yeah, man. Yeah, we talk about this at the got something for you. We talk about this at the Cafe Dad and blah blah. And we had these incentives. Your baby need a stroller. Yeah. So you get in where you fit in, right? Another couple of things we can do is ask moms, if moms are in groups, to invite the fathers or the co-parents. We already said the rest of this, so I'm going to keep going. So go ahead. Who's that?
I was just going to add to that one of the sales pitches that I've used and that actually have worked quite a bit is that, and I'll ask, do you need $50? And then I don't stand there. I'm like, do you need $50? And if you don't, I'm good. I'm gone to the next person. And that person is like, look, wait a minute. Do I need $50? Yeah, I can use $50. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and I'm not trying to sit there and just keep on hounding you about, if you need $50 or not. I'll walk away. And then they'd be, hey, brother, wait a minute. Hold on. When you say what? And then I can actually go off into other things that's related. And by the way, I'm from the Midwest too. What part of the Midwest are you from?
I'm from North Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, okay. You know about the 50-yard line, and I'm from Detroit. So yeah, I'm familiar. Okay.
All right. That's okay. We can connect.
Can I
just
offer a few?
Yes.
Some of the things I do when I go to other programs and other agencies, and now that we have Zoom, we've actually been able to cross counties. And I really just tell them, like, for example, I met with the district attorney's office and let them know that, you got guys re-entering, we got services that will service these men, you know what I mean? And we'll so that they can start to begin to feel connected to the community again. And that has been really helpful. I mean, we've gotten calls, and thank God my team has also helped facilitate that. We've gotten calls, where San Francisco District Attorney's Office. We did a presentation to all their family advocates for the free entering men, because they felt like connecting them to a fatherhood program was going to connect them to the greater community. So it's
That's
just
right.
really emphasizing that. It really makes this program so awesome.
Yes, it makes a huge difference when men can be connected with other men, dads can be connected with other dads. So what we're going to do is, Virve, I think you have the controls for the breakout. We're going to break out into 3 groups. Here's what you're going to answer. You're going to introduce yourself verbally, because we didn't do that earlier. You're going to say, I'm whatever your name is. One quality I like to bring as a facilitator is, and then insert your one word. Then you guys are going to explain why this quality is important, especially right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop sharing right quick, and then I'm going to put this into our chat. Uh-oh, I thought I stopped sharing. And we're going to break up into 3 rooms. And you guys are going to get about 7 minutes to talk about this. Make sure everyone gets a chance to talk. And let me know when you're ready. Virve, I'm putting it in now.
Virve, I don't need to be in a room.
Huh?
I said I don't need to be in a room.
Oh, I just did automatically.
Okay.
Yeah, you didn't have to select the room.
Everybody. All right. So in the chat, a couple of you would like to hear a couple of voices, but if all of us also can go into the chat and tell each other what's one new idea, insight, question you gained from your breakout discussion. So what did you hear in there? A new insight, question, or idea that you got from your breakout? So I'm going to call on Jocelyn. Hi, Jocelyn. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well. So did you get any new insights or ideas or questions based on your conversation?
Yeah, so one of the questions that was brought up right before the breakout room was closed was how to like engage with fathers in a different, like with a different perspective, you know,
Mhm.
because depending on their background, ethnicity, it's very different on how to approach them. So just
Mhm.
figuring out how, like a general way that's easy to connect with them.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you, Jocelyn. Who else? I hope you're also putting your answers in the chat. Who else could we hear from? Khalid, what did you guys talk about?
We talked about a couple different things, but towards the end, right before we got out of the break room, a number of different individuals, myself included, were on the brink of forming and doing fathers groups prior to COVID-19 happening. So it kind of threw off a lot of different plans and a lot of different like goals that people had. So we're now trying to share resources among the group or run the breakout group as to who's doing what, who can access what services, and that type of thing. So we just shared information as far as that is concerned.
Thanks, Khalid. And I will say that the Father's Corps, we're going to attempt to gather all of that information because we are offering these mini grants this year. We imagine that a lot of groups are actually going to start happening. And there are a lot of groups that are already happening. So we're going to work on putting together a calendar that we can share with the general public so that we can refer dads. We know where the groups are happening, when the groups are happening, how to register, so that it's a one-stop shop so folks can refer dads to the different groups that are available in in and out of Alameda County, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. I'm reading the chat. It said authenticity is important right now. Yup. Sharing information, personal stories, mini grants would be important to be able to do this work. Being present, understanding, a good listener was an important quality in the group that Anthony was in. Hi, Anthony. All right. So just a little bit of facilitation. And these are all things you probably already know, but are even more important right now since we're doing all of this virtually. Variety of techniques. How important is that? Somebody say something, especially while we're on Zoom.
A variety of techniques is very important because you don't want to lecture and lose your the interest of the dads. I mean, especially if you're having a father's group after them work sometimes 12 hours in a day or 8 hours, whatever have you, you know, and you're just sitting there talking. So you want to most definitely have it interactive. You want to have the breakouts going. Some of the things that Dara is doing that I'm catching on to with the interface type of little pop-ups she have, but there's a lot, you know, you just have to be creative, throw in a video, just all kind of anything, because it's a whole different when I'm live, I'm moving, I have their attention, I'm doing things to try, you know, but now it's a whole different world. So you got to bring more tools to the table to keep their interest. Amen.
I'm gonna keep going real quick. We got to recognize and deal with disruptive behavior on Zoom too. So the way that we keep safe environments, emotionally safe environments, is by having agreements, and agreements a lot of times that the dads in your group can help form. So you're not creating the agreements a lot. Make them do it. Say, hey, how do we want to be in this space so we're all feeling respected and being respected? Two-way communication is really good. Creating that safe space, establishing those agreements, establishing the name of your group. Once the fathers get together, like, what do you want to call this group? Especially if it's a new group, you are the founding group of what? And give them the opportunity to do that. Build on opportunities to develop the name, ensure everyone's voice is heard. You can do that by using these agreements and then being flexible. Somebody said that in the Zoom breakouts around being flexible around what dads want to talk about. We might have our whole curriculum ready to go and we're excited and we spend our 2 hours planning, and then dads want to talk about something totally to the left. What you gonna do?
Dara, I just to chime in, we did that yesterday when we met with our panel to prep for this meeting. We had a bunch of slides ready to share, and then we met with our panel and they were amazing, and we chucked half the slides because we thought it was more important for you to hear from folks on the ground that are doing the work. So you definitely have to be flexible when engaging parents in general, but dads as well. Sorry.
Yep. No problem. So what I'm going to do right now, because I want to get to the facilitation and I want to get to the dads, but
technology kills viruses in just one. What did you do, Mom? Dad, holy crap.
Ya solamente tenemos que registrar autonomía curricular y el área socioemocional de los niños, y esa parte está quedando bien. Perdón.
Goodbye. All right.
Perdón.
Talk to you guys tomorrow.
Bye.
See you guys.
Tony!
Can you hear us?
Tony!
Oh no.
That's great.
You can't call him. Oh my gosh.
I'm running through my pants. I got it.
Hold on, I'm gonna text a couple pictures of that. Oh. Oh boy.
What's up?
Tony, I can see you.
We can all see you.
And this meditation is great for bringing about a sense of relaxation, well-being, and calm. So starting just quickly by breathing in and breathing out. And it's really challenging, I know, with children home from school and working from home, but just trying to just keep all of those distractions out of the way.
Maple, can you stop just for a second? 3, 2, 1. More cold air. 3, 2, 1. Cold air continues across the area tonight. Potential for some frost and freeze for some of us. Warm up, it's going to take... Hey, hey, come here. Come here. Come here. Sit. 3, 2, 1. Frost and freeze for some of us again tonight. The cold air is lingering through much of the week. We'll show you when the best chance of precipitation is with Futurecast. Maple. 3, 2, 1. Maple, excuse me. Hello, come here. Come here. Come here. Do you want to be in this tease? Is that what you want? Come here.
All right. So I just had to put that in because that was so funny. It took me a long time to find ones that are appropriate and professional to show. There's a lot of Zoom bombing and a lot of craziness going on, especially with kids and college students and high school kids. A lot of really interesting things. So now what we're going to go into is what's working. And so I'm really going to open it up to our panel and to you as well around what is working. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can really see each other while we have this conversation. So what is working? Let's start with the topic of topics of like technology and that kind of thing. What's working?
I know for me, there's a couple of things that's working for us when it comes specifically to technology. The Zoom portion is really the best, I guess, software out there. Our agency uses Microsoft Teams, and so because of security issues and things like that, they wanted me to try to get the guys on Microsoft Teams, and it was just a challenge. I mean, getting it downloaded is a whole nother thing. Then, creating a whole new password and things like that. It was just a very difficult thing for them to grasp, and even with me trying to troubleshoot and walk them through the process, it was very hard on them trying to get it. And so we decided to just go with the Zoom portion of it, because Zoom is just, you create your password with your email, and you don't have to create no Microsoft, email or anything like that. And we get in and we go. And then the commands are a lot easier. I mean, you need a whole 2 or 3 days just to figure out Microsoft Teams. But Zoom, you can do a quick online tutorial and get the basics so that you can have enough to run your group and to kind of keep everybody interested and things like that.
Thank you, Chris. Who else? Oh, go ahead, Abdi.
I like that, Chris. As far as the passwords, just make it easy, try to make it easy passwords, generic Cafe Dad, just something that people can remember. I know because of security reasons, we have to have, just some level of security. Just making it easy for people to log in, as easy as possible helps.
Could someone say something about Zoom etiquette?
Well, let me give Michael and Otis a chance to go for it. I don't want to.
Man, Zoom etiquette is, I mean, as you can see right there, some of the things that happen just from people, Zoom bombing, but establishing certain certain etiquettes for people to follow through on, that in itself, can be a challenge if it's not done in a timely manner. Especially like I said, when I say done in a timely manner, you don't want to do it too soon because you're gonna have parents that come in late, but you don't want to do it too late because you provided so much time in between to not really establish things, and things tend to happen. But the fact of the matter is Zoom being able to provide you with a level of control over what you see and how you kind of control the room is a positive. But I kind of wanted to answer the other question too. One thing that works for me, that's really worked for me in terms of doing things in this format. I mean, oddly enough, it's been dispersal of material, handouts. As Julie know, for me, I have, and I feel so bad about all the paper that I've wasted now, just making copies, and preparing for it, and then boom, pandemic, everybody home, and I can send out everything in email and everything like that, and it makes it so much easier, and I don't have to stress on it. So that's one major positive thing for me.
Mike, can I ask a quick follow-up question?
Yes, sir.
Do you find with sending out the electronic documents that folks are actually using them during the breakouts? Because some people, everybody's doesn't work in an office, everybody's not computer savvy. Do you find that they're using the documents still?
I mean, oddly enough, I was expecting the same thing, that there weren't going to be a lot of people that were able to navigate that, but so far, yeah, it's been good. Okay, it's been really good.
Good.
You know what? I have a question for the panel. Like when you guys are having your Zoom and then you start and you're like maybe 20 minutes in, and then other participants may come in like on the 30-minute time in, they're late, obviously. What do you do with that type of situation where you've already went through like half of your materials, and here's maybe 2 or 3 guys that come in later? How do you deal with them coming in on a later, coming later to the training?
Well, I mean, you have the option of, when they're in the waiting room, who you let in and who you don't let in. So, I mean, if someone, you set that's why you have to set the house rules in the beginning. And so if 30 minutes is too late for someone to come in, then you set that rule that anybody that comes in after 30 minutes, you're not going to be admitted in the class. So that's the way you deal with that, because it's not going to be a revolving door where people can go in and out. I mean, of course, people have technical issues and sometimes they get kicked out. That's different, but you already know who's been in and who hasn't. So somebody's coming in 30 minutes. I always tell them, shoot me an email or text me. Let me know, that you're going to be late. And I may let it happen one time, but it just can't be a consistent thing.
I'm glad you mentioned that. But see, I'm making reference to our boot camp for new dads. We welcome everybody to come in. I mean, that's one of the things that we do. And then to try to put a cutoff on it is really kind of like, I don't know. I'm kind of, I would like to, go down that road with that a little bit further.
It's not a problem because with our particular group, it's not so strict, and so it's kind of come as your own leisure and things like that. I have guys come into my group late all the time, and so what I'll do is I will acknowledge them. Hey, so and so is in, and here are some of the things that we talked about earlier. And then if there's a pause, I'll give him a quick time to kind of check in, how you doing, and then answer our question, and then we get back into whatever it is that we were dealing with. But just making sure that we do acknowledge them, because you can get in and kind of black screen yourself, and you can kind of go the whole time without being acknowledged and things like that. So but if you have a group like Otis where you have a start time, you have a finish time, and you know, you have certain rules that you have to go with it. But most groups are just like kind of willy-nilly and kind of, hey, we're just here to help and support you guys in any way that we can. And so, you know, when they come in, just let them know, hey, you know, so and so is in. Thank you for joining us. This is what we've been talking about, and, you know, dive right into the conversation.
Yeah.
I saw your hand.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, to follow up that, Chris kind of said what I was gonna say too as well. For you know, if you do have a cutoff time, you know, definitely setting that tone early on. I try to be a little bit more understanding that, you know, that things are going on, you know, just based on my own experience. It's like, it's difficult for me to make it everything on time with these back here that you see is very challenging. But then definitely having that understanding, and then when they come in the group, much like Chris said, kind of, you know, reiterating some of the things that I've gone over, but also kind of like in a game show style for me. Like when certain questions or things arise, when I, you know, calling on somebody that just came in to give them, say, you know, want to give blah blah a chance to respond. Can you start off giving your name and, you know, some of the things that, you know, tell us a little something about yourself before you answer that question, to give them the opportunity to, you know, present themselves, and allow the group to feel connected in that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, I meant to say what's up to Brother Reggie, man. I just recognized who you were, brother. You need to tell them to give away you know, play pens too, man.
Yes, sir. Well, you know, one of the things too, man, that I wanted to say is that the guys that were there on time, right? I don't want to, because they were on time and John Doe comes in late. I mean, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time with him, because I respect the guys that will be in there on time. I do understand what you and Chris are saying, acknowledging who he is, and, you know, probably giving a little snippet of what we've done, and then keeping on back with on task.
Can I just chime in right quick?
Yes.
I know I'm the old school guy, and you know, I believe in structure. And a lot of the brothers that we have, a lot of the people that we have coming in, the reason why they're having issues is because their lives is out of whack. They don't have no structure. They don't have no discipline. And so this is why what I focus on is to change boys into men. That's my focus. I'm changing boys into men, and I'm going to do it. I understand Chris, and I understand Mike, and it depends on what type of you know, group you have. But as far as me, that's what I do. They have to learn some discipline. They got to learn some structure so that they can be fathers. You just can't pop in anytime. That's just me. I'm sorry.
Okay, that I love this, right? Because everyone is different. Everybody's group is different. What we're trying to accomplish with our groups are different. Drop in versus a structured curriculum. You can lock your meeting. You can tell people from the very beginning, I lock my meeting 10 minutes after. Mm-hmm. From the beginning. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You got 10 minutes grace. I know it's rough. Right? So I love this conversation. Kevin, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think Otis hit it on the head. I think you do what works for you and your group, you know, and the dads will attend what works for them. You know, maybe the dad does need a little more structure, and he appreciates the fact that the group is locked, and he's going to do what he has to do to get there on time. And then maybe you do need a little bit more lax if you got 4 kids, Mike, and you know, you got a lot going on, and you got, you know, you're working a couple of different jobs. You may need a little bit more flexibility, and you will choose the group that works for you. But I think that whatever your approach is, I think as long as you communicate it and you're consistent with it, it can work. It can work. So I definitely appreciate the conversation as well. And I think both things are very important.
Mm-hmm. And I want to add this to this as well. So from time to time, I'll get a dad that is referred to me from the child welfare system. Now, those dads, yes, I get it, 100%. I need you to be on your P's and Q's, because you're looking for me to write you a referral letter to your case manager or your caseworker saying that you've been coming, that you've been on time, that you've been attentive, things like that. So I 100% get it. And so I would do that for them, but it would be on a private scale. So I wouldn't let the group know that he's coming from CPS and he has this situation unless he, want to put that information out there himself. And so I would deal with him outside of the group and follow up and talk to him, let him know. But as far as, guys that's just showing up to the group because they're making the choice to want to be fathers and be involved and want to become a better father and learn different and new techniques, then, there's no real, slap on the wrist for them. This is a group that's going to help you when you need it.
Thank you so much. Let's move on. Tell me about some various ways that you guys are using to engage dads. So variety, we're talking about a variety of techniques and things that you can do. So kind of tell me one thing that you're doing to put some variety into your groups.
Brothers, I'm trying to give y'all a chance to talk.
Let's go.
One thing that I've seen work is having an agenda. So, we do have like a drop-in style where it's, informal, guys can come in. But I think having something prepared and having a detailed, agenda helps. Because as someone who's been to meetings myself, I appreciate when the facilitator took the time to put together a meeting for us. So I think having an agenda really helps.
What other variety are you guys using in your meetings, gatherings, calls? Mike?
Oh man, you already know I was about to put. Yeah, I think like one thing for me that that I've seen that people appreciate is asking, sometimes asking thought-provoking questions. And sometimes as simple as they sound, make them even more challenging, and you can kind of see those reactions. So, if how would you, what type of parent would you describe yourself as in this many words? Or if you had to describe your parenting style using a movie, things of that nature. What other type of parents would you describe yourself as, or examples would you describe your parenting style as? I think that having those off the cuff type questions to start things up creates a greater, even more diverse kind of conversation, and it helps them engage a little bit more, especially when they find something funny about themselves, and laughter, and then they find connectivity, allowing dads to talk a little bit more amongst themselves without me necessarily having to be front and center and making them the center to focus on.
Yep, thank you. Who else?
Jorge in the chat mentioned to check in with them, to check in, see how dads are feeling, how they're doing. That's a great point.
Yeah, if I may shout out.
Oh,
let's let to Kevin. Go ahead.
Let's hear from Juan. We haven't heard from him. Go ahead, Juan.
Well, in the groups that I facilitate, usually I try to give sentence structures as far as like I have already planned one particular topic that I'm going to bring to the group, but also the head part of the group, I try for them to bring their own stories, what's going on with them. So I think that combination, what I have seen is relevant for them, because going for 2 hours, that's usually the length that I have the groups for, it can be a lot, just receiving. But the fact that they can be engaged and also know that it's a safe space for them to talk about what's really going on with them, with their families, with their jobs. I can see that they come out of that, feeling like it's relevant. And so I think I just want to point that out too. And usually I pick up the topics not because I want it. I usually ask them, what are some of the things, what are some of the stuff that you would like to talk about it? And sometimes the way I do the pitch to them is like, if you're okay in your relationship, in your life, and you don't need, you feel like you're doing great, don't come to the group, really. And actually, if you feel that you want to improve in some areas in your life and in ways that you can, get better, then maybe this is the place for you to come.
Provocative. You are provocative. Being provocative works because it kind of like challenges people a little bit, right? And they go, what?
Can I just piggyback off them since
Sure.
I have to say that the feedback I get from Michael's style, Otis's style, and Juan is always good feedback. They always end up with the folks that it works for them. And even in our regular classes, they all teach our parenting classes too. I just want to put out there that we've been running our fatherhood. I mean, we're going to actually start up. We've been doing it without no funding. Like Juan, I mean, we've been trying to scramble around for funding, but we knew if we didn't keep things thinking and moving, that we didn't want to lose track. So we're going to actually start up 2 classes coming up, and we found some creative ways of being able to pay for these things. But every one of their strategies, I get such good feedback. You know what I mean? I have little videos that I can share with y'all where folks are saying, you know, I was walking in here thinking I just needed to do it, and then walking out like it's 3D, you know, and it's been real. I got some really great videos from all their classes, but I do get that really good feedback that everything that they're saying works.
They as y'all see with Otis and Juan, I glad you said that, Julie, because I'm the young man. I'm the young bull, so I'm hearing the gotta be here in the chop style. I'm like, man, I need to up myself.
No.
I need to up my standards.
I just got to say that, you know, Otis's style works in both.
Yeah.
You know, in our parent education classes, I get folks that say, man, Otis is a sergeant, but I'm so glad that he kept me on track. You know what I mean? Same for the other guys. I always get really good feedback. So there's whatever it is they're doing, it works. I wish I could be a little fly in the room, you know what I mean? Being able to watch all this stuff.
What else works?
Some of the things for me is making sure we have relevant topics, talking about issues that's at hand. So I know when we first started the group in May that year, we had the George Floyd situation. So we dealt with that. You know, we had to deal with that, and it was a very heartfelt conversation. In fact, and I might be jumping ahead, but in fact, we had one of the guys went out to the protest in San Francisco and logged into our Zoom group, and kind of gave us an update of what was going on right there, you know, on the moment. It's almost like he was a reporter, and just kind of scanning the view and had us seen everything. And you know, we asked him, you know, what was the situation like? Was people masked up? What was the feel? Things like that. And he really like broke it down to us. So I know talking about relevant topics is on point. And then to add to that is getting guest speakers on. You know, at one point it was difficult to get guest speakers because they had to come to a place. It was in the evenings and traffic. And it seemed like once we went virtual, I was getting all the guest speakers that I couldn't get to show up in person because now they're at home and they have time to do it. So making sure that we got relevant guest speakers, my connections with the health clinics, health centers, I was able to get doctors and physicians on to talk about healthcare and the future of healthcare after COVID and during COVID and things like that. And you know, getting CPS in to do a child prevention workshop, and you know, getting child support in to help with dads that wasn't getting a stipend check, right? Stimulus check. So doing things like that, I felt that worked for me, and my guys really enjoyed them and liked it as well.
Anything else we want to say about what's working? I want to hear just like popcorn style, the variety. So we already heard breakout rooms. What else? Open-ended questions. What else? Topics, themes that are relevant to the dads. What else?
Utilizing icebreakers.
Icebreakers.
Yeah, utilizing technology. You know, I'll go to YouTube a couple of times and show a relevant video and things like that. Another thing that I'm jumping off actually this month is Trivia Maker. Actually putting my curriculum into a game format and a game style so that it can be fun and different for the guys.
Using polls. There's something also called that a lot of kids use called Kahoot. You can use the Jamboard. You can use Annotate on your Zoom slides. You can use interactive slides, polls, Mentimeter. So there's a whole bunch of things that we can do to add variety. So we're not just doing the same thing over and over again. Especially if we're doing weekly or bi-weekly groups and meetings and gatherings. So now I want to go to what to look out for. Just, what to look out for when you're doing these meetings online, aside from making sure you don't just have on underwear and all this kind of stuff. What do we also need to look out for with the groups? So I'm going to kick it over to our panel again and tell us what we need to be looking out for.
I'll say quickly, just a quick shout out to Kev for what's it called? Name That Dad. Name That Dad is a very, very fun game that you can play with dads. It's relevant. And I've enjoyed it. I think with permission, Kevin will be more than happy to share that game with everyone.
Nice.
As far as what to watch out for, if you're doing screen sharing, you want to make sure you're sharing the right screen, because Zoom mishaps happen.
You want to share what's appropriate. You want to make sure what you have in your tabs is things that you want to have shared. All right. We've all heard the stories. What else do we need to look out for?
Another thing you have to be flexible for and look out for is kids getting involved, like you seen in the video. I can't tell you how many times in our groups where, the kids just show up in the screen, they coming up from like this little corner right here, and they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" And so you just have to go back to them like, "Hey, what's going on?" and acknowledge them, because that's what it is. And even for me as a presenter, my little baby boy, he loves being in the camera. He will come and turn me around. I have to pick him up and he'll be all up on it. And I'm like, but it's a part of where we are now. And so embrace it and love it. And that's the whole point, is when we're talking about them being fathers, is to connect with their child. And I encourage them, hey, look, if your child is want that attention, give your child that attention.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about, go ahead, Mike.
I would say you kind of took what I was about to say too, go with it. Cause my oldest daughter just come and sit on my lap, and then her face is smack dead in the camera, and that's what she wants to do. And so I realized that with dealing with just parents in general, about being that level of flexibility is required in this format. And when I say that level of flexibility, I mean even within your facilitation and whatever topic that you're on, being willing to not be so so tied to it to a point to where you can't allow this to be, even though we're on virtual, not allowed to be personal, not allowed, that you want to allow yourself to be able to be personable and be able to talk about things that's going on and allow that kind of gear things and allow people to loosen up and feel comfortable with the fact that you're in your home. You should be able to have this same time. You're sharing a portion of yourself, your home, and your family here, and so we want to make it really inclusive. So really looking out for just the same thing Chris said.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to piggyback off that. What Mike was saying is confidentiality, making sure that when you're creating the community, that you're not pillow talking, or you got your girl because she's listening in and she said, "Oh, I heard Chris talking about he gonna take you to child support or this and that," So I mean, you just want to create you want to make sure that the fellas let them know that just as well as somebody that you can tell on somebody else, somebody can go back and say something about you, or even just say something that's not true. So just build that bond, and that community is so important for me.
Yeah, I just want to share, for example, yesterday in the group that I was doing, something come up, and there was this participant that was sharing, for example, before he shared, he ended up sharing, that he has an addiction toward pornography. And at the same time, he said, make sure if I'm saying this, it's anybody around you that can listen to this, in this case, children or stuff like that, which is, I think we have to be very careful about, definitely confidentiality, and also who can be exposed to the, the different type of topics and things that you're talking about. So just put that out there.
Thanks, Juan. I think that really says a lot about the environment that you've created, that someone would be comfortable to share that. I think that says a lot about that, a lot.
Oh my goodness, yes. Could someone share, Otis, about kicking people out or what, like that kind of thing?
I know Julie's laughing. Yeah, so I mean, there's some advantages to Zoom versus being in class. I mean, and there's things that happen that when you're in class, that's not going to happen, that can happen in Zoom. I mean, just as Dara stated, you know, with the cameras off, one of my major pet peeves is I want the camera has to be on. It has to be on. That's the first thing. I don't care. You can have the lights dim. You know, I found people laying in their bed, you know, whatever they're doing, that's fine with me, you know, as long as they're engaging in dialogue. But one thing I'm not going to have is that the lack of respect for your brothers that's in the class. You have to respect, just like I respect everyone here, you have to respect me as well. And so you sitting in class and you sleeping, you snoring, I'm gonna hit the breakout. I'm gonna put you in the waiting room. I mean, if you're not, that's go to the waiting room. That's a function that you have that you can use, and it's respectful. And I know, like I said, cats a lot of times they have a long day. You work 12 hours, and now you're in the dad's cafe or whatever have you. You're in the dad's group, and you may do fall asleep, but that's going to be distracting to the community. That's going to be distracting to the group. So you can hit that send them into the waiting room, and then when they wake back up, they can come back in. I know it sounds funny, but that's real talk.
And I'll add other things, you know, because when I first got started, and that's good though. One of the things when I first got started, you know, I had guys, you know, I will never forget it. You know, one of my participants, he's walking around the room and he's laying on the bed, and for I guess how the camera was, you just seen butt crack. I mean, just literally butt crack, and I'm just like, oh God, like, oh my goodness, like this is some of the things you got to look out for. Also, I had another client, man, he took his shirt off and he just laid across the bed, and all you seen was just belly and pants, and it was like, dude. But he participated in everything, but these are just, I mean, they at home, they're comfortable. And so these are just some of the things you have to look at. Also, it hadn't happened to me yet, but also one of the things you want to look at is for like trollers and Zoom bombing and things like that, of people from the outside coming in and bringing a bad spirit or bad vibes into your group and things like that. So
I was gonna say, and this kind of flows into where Otis and Juan are, more specifically Sergeant Wood, in regards to making sure that you do have some structure around what you allow in terms of timing and everything like that. Because just the same way, like I said, going through setting out your etiquette and your everything of that nature, I went through setting out etiquette for a class in a group, and about, you know, not doing this, A, B, and C, not, you know, no drug use, no nothing like that. Father came in late, and literally came in late, waved, and then the camera just slowly drifted down. As far as he doing, he rolling up, and then it got to come back. You see puffs and small. I'm like, oh man, and this is like literally right after I had went through the etiquette. And I'm in the middle of stuff, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm trying to, but I'm like Chris too. I wanna respect the fact that you at home, as you know, but at the same time, it's like I just went through this etiquette with everybody else. You not only came late, but you got something that I just said we can't have here like that. So,
I have a question.
Yes,
I have a question, and I want to direct this toward Chris and Otis. Chris, now, you know, and Mike, you as well. When you talk about etiquette, and I know we actually have had meetings, and I've seen some of the younger guys, young bulls such as Chris, you know, and he's while we having a meeting, he's actually on his phone, and he's doing multi things on his phone. But some of the old bulls are like saying, hey, wait a minute, man, that's sort of like a disrespect, man. And I know Chris and one of my other coworkers was saying, well, we multitask and we're looking up things and so on and so forth. But the old bulls are like, hey man, that's a form of disrespect. That's not meeting etiquette. You know what I mean? So can you guys, especially Chris, can you chime in a little bit about that?
I'll let Sergeant hit it first. Sergeant Ward hit it first.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times with the youngsters, they don't know. You know, they just don't know. And so what I'll do is I'll call a 5-minute break, and then I'll call them, and then I'll school them. You know, or you know, if I have the opportunity, if time permits or whatever, and they're pretty cool, you know, they'll get a one-on-one the following day. I'll call them, let them know. You know what you know, give them a heads up, because a lot of times people just don't know. And then you just, you know, share that information.
And for me, you know, we're dealing with a different time, a different generation, and you have to understand that this phone is going to be on them like white on rice. You know, it's attached to them. If they walk 2 feet out the door and they forget their phone, guess what? They're not going to continue on with their day. They're going back to get their phone. So it's going to be a part of them. And so dealing with them where they are is how you should be. And like I said, it just depends on how you want to run your group. Like I said, my group is way laid back. Even when we were in person, it was laid back, you know, because this is not mandatory. You know, the judge didn't tell you to come here. And if you don't come here, you can't get your kids. You know, CPS didn't say if you don't complete these courses, things like that, then who am I to force this on them? Now, there is a fine line, because I do want them to respect one another, which we have in our groups. I do want them to be considerate of other folks' time, which we do have that, but I'm not going to force them, hey, don't do this and don't do that. As long as they're getting what they need, I think it's a success.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, man, I love what both of these two brothers said. Like, for me, I guess because of my background, and then also knowing about myself, because my background, I started working with kids and mental health first and foremost for years. I have, you know, about over 10 years experience doing that. But also knowing, like, myself, I don't want to disregard the fact of how it can be a distraction for somebody not to be give their full attention and be engaged like that. But I know, like, for myself, knowing that we have different types of learners, people that are auditory, visual, you know, kinesthetic. For me, I know that I'm more like, at times when people are talking or explaining something, I'm more auditory. So I can't necessarily give my visual attention, because then I just kind of drift off. And so I try to respect the fact that some people, if it's like me, I have to, even in meetings, I sit in meetings, I have to doodle and do something so that I can take away any type of other distraction and be able to listen to people. And so I try to be mindful of that with people as well. But at the same time, if you sitting there and you've been this the whole time, like, I can't, you know, much like what Brother Otis said, you know, it's time to kind of bring that up. So I'll make mention of it. If it's still, I'll make mention of it in passing. And if it still comes up, I will, you know, reach out to somebody the next day and talk to them about stuff like that.
Great points, Mike. Great points.
Thank you.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes, yes.
I mean, the reason why I'm the way I am is because we are working with dads. And how can a dad teach a son or even a daughter if they don't know? Mm-hmm. And so that's why, I mean, I think that, because if they don't like the class, they're gonna leave, and then I'm gonna send them over to Chris. and that's good. They have that option. You see, it's good they have that option.
It is good for have options, right? And we don't have to apologize for how our styles, right? We got multi-generations here, multi-cultures, multi-languages. So we have to be able to be flexible and adjust to who comes. But we also can have structure and standards. And when we do, we communicate them from the beginning. I'm Sergeant Griffin. This is how I run my stuff, right? So you're letting people know very early. I lock my classes 10 minutes after. You can't even get in. Like, I couldn't get in. Well, that's because it was locked, right? So, and I tell them from the very beginning, but this is for people who need child welfare letters and certificates, like Chris said. The other stuff, they come in and out whenever. I use the chat to catch people up. One of the things that we didn't talk about is having a co-host. How important it is to have a good co-host. Maybe you have a co-host that's doing content with you. Maybe you have a co-host that's just helping you get your technology together. Our team today, Virve, me, and Kevin, all three of us are working to make sure we're checking the chat, making sure stuff is working everywhere. Virve is doing the breakout rooms. Having one person do all that is almost impossible.
That's a great point, Darren. I appreciate you saying that, because we do have some leadership on this call, agency leadership on this call, and it's important for them to know that as well, that this is not a one person show. On when we have our dad discussions events, where we may have anywhere from 30 to 90 people on the call, there's a team of like 6 or 7 people that are in the background, that are monitoring the chat, that are responding to questions, that are putting people in breakout rooms, that are, once we go into breakout rooms, we're reinserting people in the breakout rooms because things happen. It's not an accident when things run smoothly. It is very intentional when things run smoothly. I think it is important that we don't leave our facilitators hanging out to dry, and we provide them with the resources that they need to make a quality group, because we do what we can. We'll make it happen if we have to, but it's a real tough position to put our facilitators in, to ask them to do all of that. And the larger the group, the more support that person needs. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Dara.
Yes. So what I'm showing you, can you guys see my screen again? What I'm showing you on the screen right now is just all the things that we talked about so far that are working. So you also will get this slide deck, so don't worry about trying to take pictures and all that. This is also what's working. Having a backup plan, hosting versus facilitating, and not being a straight up lecturer. No one wants to get lectured to on Zoom. Just telling you. Timing, probably. What do you guys think the max timing is for a online group?
I'd say about an hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Juan said 2 hours, but if we're doing this, if we doing 2 hours, and I'm not going to do it today, it's not best practice. We need to take a break. Right?
Can I add something as well? I'm advertised as 2 hours, so my group is from 5 to 7 and 8 to 6. However, when you look at it, we give guys time to get on. So about time we actually start our first check-in is somewhere between 5:15 and 5:20. So we'll get through. So we actually, the first 20 minutes is just chit chat and small chat until we get a good portion of the guys on. So I think anything, like if you're going to be doing group for 2 hours, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, and you can invite people to take care of themselves if you're not going to take a break. So please take care of yourself however you need to. And then, go ahead, Kevin.
Jorge just brought up a good point that it depends on the size of your group as well. If you have a very small group, it's harder. I would think that it would be harder to go on for 2 hours. If you have a larger group, the longer you have, because you have more people participating. So I appreciate that comment, Jorge. And just to go back to the top of your slide, having a backup plan. We added that based on a comment that was made by one of our panelists that, dads, like Otis has said, it's been brought up several times, dads are coming in with different experiences throughout their day, and it may not just be a good day for your group as far as engagement and talking. So having a backup plan when your dads are not as engaged is very important. Chris, can you comment on that? Because you actually brought that point up yesterday.
Stuff was just going through. So a couple of things with that. I always have a curriculum. I always have an agenda. And there are just days where it's like pulling teeth. It's just hard to get any response. I really don't like the lecture, but I can't. And so I always have 2 plans. So I have my lecture prepared. I have my questions prepared. And my questions is really where I want to go. I may throw little nibbits and tidbits to them to get them talking and get them moving. But if they're not, then I can go ahead and lecture. And by the time I'm done lecturing, I can start loosening up things and they'll start talking. Another thing is with the backup plan, sometimes you have to just go with the flow. If your group is dealing with child development issues, and you got a nice size and they're talking about child development issues, even though I have this planned agenda, sometimes I just need to, say, hey, look, you guys are dealing with this. What are some of your questions? How can I help you? Do you guys know about ASQs? Do you guys know about developmental milestones? If not, let's talk about those things. What are your child's doing? What are some ways that you can encourage your child to make these things, stuff like that? If they're dealing with court issues, hey, y'all, we got some people in here dealing with some court issues. Can we take the first 30 minutes and deal with, how to be successful in court? What are some of the things they're going to come up with? What are some of the things that's going to happen? What do they need to know in order to be successful through the court process? And you have to have that flexibility, and you have to have that backup plan, because you never know. I mean, my group is centered around meeting the needs of the fathers, because if I can meet the needs of the fathers, they can be better fathers.
I like to piggyback on that too. That's a great point. So we had a cafe dad, and we had an agenda planned out, and a father comes in. He had court that day, so obviously he's got a lot of stuff on his mind, and he needed support. So we diverted from our agenda to support that dad that day and to help him vent on what's going on. And yeah, so it definitely helps to be flexible.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep going. So we have the rest, thank you, Abdi, of what is working. And I'm sure there's other things that are working that we haven't mentioned. And we're going to open it up for a larger discussion and question and answer in a few minutes. Not being boring, that speaks to the variety and creativity that you have to do this. And so what to look out for, we've talked about a little bit. Participation. Some of the questions that might go through your mind: are people really paying attention? Especially when it's just black boxes. Is something like, are you there? Chris brought this up yesterday. Sometimes people will call in and it'll just say iPhone
or Samsung.
Yes.
Yeah, LG stylus. Yeah.
Yeah, and saying, hello, iPhone 27345. I see you came in. Is there anything you want to say? Asking people to rename themselves, or asking permission to rename the iPhone to a person's actual name, so you can call on them. The respect Otis brought up, becoming a caseworker. You may not be a caseworker in your title, but when you start doing dad groups, you probably will become one in some way, shape, or form. You will be referring dads to resources and giving information about everything because they built a relationship with you and they trust you.
Can I speak on that, Dara, real quick?
Sure, Abdi, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, when I first took on this role, I feel passionate about working with fathers because, like I said, I still am a young father, and I know what we talked about in our breakout rooms is coming in, being like the only person in the courtroom, in a situation where fathers are not supported, fathers are not what do you call it? Basically, there's no support. So when you're working with dads, you have to realize you're working with the whole person. You're working with someone who needs help more than just the group. And I was working with a father in particular who needed help around technology and how to navigate court dates virtually. And so that required me taking time out of my day to help him download the app and show them how to use it. And just showing people that you care and going that extra mile really helps. I don't call that being a caseworker. I just call that being human and helping out another brother. But yeah, it can also be a caseworker too.
That's a great point, Abdi. And I just want, again, we've got leadership, agency leadership on this call, and I think it's important for them to hear that as well, that, yes, your specific job may be running this group, but your commitment to the dads that are in that group will go far beyond. If you're authentic, Reggie brought that up in the comments, and you really do care about the fathers that are in your group, your work will expand beyond the boundaries of your group. And it is important for, again, agencies to understand that, and I don't want to put anybody out there, but and to compensate these facilitators accordingly, because if you have a good group and you're getting good feedback and the attendance is what it is, it's probably because they're doing some of these things that go beyond the boundaries of this group. And so I just want folks to keep that in mind as well.
I want to add to that as well. When I first took over Cafe Dad 3 years ago, my very first group that I took over had 2 participants in it. By the time Corona hit, we were averaging about 8 guys per group. And then since Corona hit, since we've been virtual, we've been averaging about 13 guys per group. And I'll get, new dads referred every so often. And so building the relationships with these new dads to get them in on this core so that number can go from 13 to 15 to 16 to 20 guys. That's where it's going to take. It's not just going to be them coming to group and getting good stuff. It's the outside hours for me that built Cafe Dad. It was calling them, checking on them, going to court with them, going to child welfare meetings with them. Like, that's what built the group, because they actually seen somebody that cared and was like, yeah, man. And then on top of that, the group was, just what they needed. They wanted to continue to get better as a father and as a man.
Thank you so much. We're not taking a break. Ignore that. All right. So I want to open it up really to questions. If there's any questions that you guys have, things that you have been wondering, something that was said today that you like, I don't know about that, feel free. It's 12:44. We're ending at 1. We want to be able to make sure the goals that you set in the beginning, that we've addressed those. So who has a question or a thought that they like to throw out there?
I've got a question.
Sure.
And Chris, you touched on it just a second ago. But how important is it, the communication that goes on not only in the session obviously is important, but what goes on between sessions, before and after a session? How important is that to getting dads to show up? You know what I mean? And I'll take that answer from anybody.
To start it off, it's vital. It is very vital because, I don't want to put nobody on the spot, but Jorge is a former, and I'm gonna call him former because he's actually co-facilitating our Spanish group that we're starting. So I'm happy that he's on and that he's a part of our team. But I can't tell you how many times after group we sat, or not even sat, stood around and talked for 20 minutes, 30 minutes of just some of the issues that he had been dealing with, some of the issues that had came up, things like that. Is vital. And honestly, I believe that is what kept him coming to the group. I mean, the group was good, but I think it's the relationship that he and I formed, the after hours, the off the clock time that got him keep coming, because he's seen a brother that actually was genuinely cared and went the upper mile. And doing the follow-up is important. If I say that I'm gonna look something up for you, I'm gonna look it up, and I'm gonna hit you up and say, hey, look, I found it. This is the situation. This is how you have to deal with it. And so let me walk you through this process, and let me walk and help you through it. So it's vital, because people, we hear it all the time. People don't care how much you know, they care how much you care, or they love how much you care, or however the quote goes, and it's a true statement, even with men. Even with men, we look at men and we have this perception of men, but the moment that you show that you care, regardless of your style, they will respond to it. And that's all that it is. And that's all that they want. They want somebody to know that they care. I remember I was working at Brighter Beginnings, and I had this teen dad, first teen dad ever come to our groups. And literally, we talked this brother because we posed a question like, you're having a daughter, would you let your daughter paint your fingernails? Would you sit there? And he's like, no, 16 years old. No, I'm prideful. I'm a man, this, that, and the other. And by the time he was done with our groups, man, he was like, yeah, I'll sit down and have tea. I'll let her paint my nails, because we actually took the time and let them know that doesn't define you as a man. That doesn't define your masculinity. And this was off the hours. This just wasn't in group. So it's things like that are valuable and actually build your group.
Julie.
I just want to add a little bit from a leadership role that I have in my agency. I think it's really important that folks, I mean, at least for us, that we are really incorporating the fatherhood principles. And like Michael and Juan, we have them on our helpline now. So just know, you guys got any fathers that need any support, you can call our helpline. I mean, they have schedules, but and it seems like the fathers did in our group, because we can do some warm handoffs like that to maybe a male therapist, and Michael and Juan being on the helpline, that from a leadership role, that really, I mean, fathers, I mean, when you're able to hand them off at least 1 or 2 programs, pretty soon they're going to start feeling comfortable. We trust you because we see who we are in your agency. So that's been really, it's been really important. You know what I mean? And I can't say how much, our agency has really embraced, and it really has made a difference in all of our programs, I have to tell you, in our parent education program now, that's mothers and fathers, it's 49% fathers consistently.
Whoa.
49% for the last 2 years.
Whoa.
That's huge.
Consistently. But I got fathers, and they're all fathers teaching these classes these last 2 years.
That's
so
huge.
That is huge. Before it was 60%, 70%, and we're graduating these fathers. And then we can move them over into our fatherhood programs. You know what I mean? So,
could I add something to that as well? I want to say it was last year or maybe a couple of years ago. For our program, we operate September through June, and we're off for the summer. And that was right around the time that you guys were kicking off your father's program. And I sent a couple of dads to Mike, and I loved it because it kept it going year round for the dads that wanted that year round service. One of the fathers, Alberto, got it connected to, I guess you guys have a therapy hotline or something like that. And he calls for this one particular therapist all the time. And every time he comes to group, we talk somebody having some mental issue. Man, y'all need to talk to Family Pass helpline, man. And so things like that happen when we do it, when we do things like that. So yeah, don't be afraid to say, hey, look, I know a brother that got a group over here that might fit you. I know a brother over here that got a group over here that might be just right for you. Like, yeah, I'm trying to build my group, but I'm not afraid to share the wealth as well.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Julie. And I just want to give a shout out to Family Pass as well. They have been the model agency for just picking up this work and running with it and weaving it all through the service, all the services that they provide. Anthony, I'm going to go to you because I know you had a question. You had your hand raised. Anthony?
Yeah. For us at the library, we weren't getting many referrals. A lot of our group was built on just engaging with fathers and word of mouth through patrons who come through the branch, and the relationships that we have with folks here. That all got stripped from us because we shut down, and we don't contact people, and we don't have a lot of information about how to get a hold of our dads. And it's probably our fault for not keeping that list well. But now, I'm encouraged, and I got redeployed doing food distribution. So I don't get to do the programming that I used to do. But I do 1,000 meals 3 times a week out of our brand.
Are you at Oakport?
I'm at 81st Avenue.
81st, okay.
Library. But I see a lot of new dads actually coming through getting food for their kids, for their families, and for themselves. And I think, so one, I appreciate and inspired by a lot of what I heard today. I guess my question is, I know this is a virtual concept, but we were kind of thinking about possibly inviting people to like an open picnic kind of thing, and trying to figure out if there's a safe way and other ways to do it, because our participation has been mostly on, sharing space together. And I'm just wondering if have you all thought about that, or is there a way to do that? Because food was our hook too. We feed the fathers, and I'm just curious about that.
So we thought about it, and we never pulled the trigger just because I'm with the public health department and they want to go by the strictest of guidelines. However, I did have a plan, and what we had planned on doing was doing it was like a drop-in box lunch, so it wasn't like you prepare your own. It already came prepackaged, things like that. Make sure everybody is masked, make sure the social distancing things were still into effect. Do that, talk to them for a little bit, get their information, and then let them go. Because at the time you couldn't play at the parks or anything like that. So that's what I had planned, but it had got overruled by the public health department. The hard part about that, and I'm not sure how your agency is going to operate, but because we're going back into the purple, is going and they're actually talking about enforcing curfews and going back to so it may be difficult doing that aspect as far as with the food. Now, if you wanted to get real creative about it, this is what my group had threw out to me was have people that was interested. You can get them a what is it, Jorge? The dash eats or Uber Eats or something. You can get them like the Uber Eats card or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. So that's one of the ideas that they brought up to me, like feed us, man.
And
The Uber Eats.
we just got a comment in the chat from Ann about lunch on us, and that what they do is they send everyone a Grubhub coupon. So similar to what you just mentioned, Chris and Anthony. Just to acknowledge the struggle that you guys are having. You're not alone. It is hard to attract new dads to a virtual group. That is not an easy thing to do. It is very tricky. Yeah. So, I mean, I can suggest our the services that First Five can provide. We have a listserv that goes out to over 1,000 providers every 2 weeks. So if you have a flyer or some sort of a digital announcement, we can include it there. We also have our Help Me Grow phone line where folks call. They call in for support if they have concerns about their children. We can refer dads that way, refer dads to you that way as well. So that is something, a service that we can provide. And like I mentioned, Darren and I are going to work on putting together a calendar once we find out all the groups that are happening, the days, the timing, and how to register. We are going to put together a calendar that we can share and make public on our website and send out in an email blast. So we can support you as best we can with our what the services that we can provide, the outreach strategies that we can provide. And I just encourage you just to stay at it. Be in constant communication with your leadership so that they are patient, because a lot of times when resources are being set aside for a particular group and that particular group is not getting the attendance, the numbers that they want, sometimes they cancel it, and that is absolutely the wrong thing to do. So if you get 1 or 2 dads to participate on a consistent basis, that's great. Keep them engaged, and hopefully those dads will tell other dads, and that number will grow eventually. Anyway, I just want to put that out there.
And also, if you utilize your network, right? If you have anyone in different areas, of expertise, if you know any nurses or doctors or anything like that, reach out to them. I know one of the biggest things that's been happening over the last month or so is that we have been getting a lot of referrals from juvenile probation. I mean, a lot of referrals in the last month or so. It's been about almost 10 referrals. So utilize those networks and let them know that, hey, look, I understand that this is going on, but dads still have needs, things like that, and we have a service to provide for them.
Well, and I think even with the network you guys are talking about, and something we can tap into is I see 140 families a day on food days. So there's just such an opportunity to connect with, even if the fathers aren't showing up, I could connect with other family members who can spread that word. So.
And I'll give you this one. We were in a training a few months ago, and an idea came, and it wasn't the best. I mean, it wasn't the oh boom idea, but it was the light bulb idea. And the guy was saying, hey, put some flyers on a pizza box and talk to the local pizza restaurant manager. Put the flyer on so that when the boxes go out, guess what? They're seeing your flyer. So getting eyes on your content, getting eyes on your program, and you're right there at the food bank. Ask your leader if you can put a flyer on the bag and send it home with them. right? You can do little things like that, and you know, especially if a dad is coming to pick it up, that you can even have some words with them. So things like that is vital, and it works.
Yeah.
Finding any way to communicate. Can I want to close though. I want to put this out there for closing to put in the chat. So if we had more time, we'd say this verbally, but we are at 12:58. So in the chat, if you can put one idea you got from this training that you can use in your groups in the next 2 months. One idea that you got from this training that you believe you can use in your groups the next time you run a group or a meeting or a gathering or whatever you want to call it, but not a class and not a workshop, remember? So let's check out the chat. I just want to say thank you. This was really, to me, like I'm the trainer, but it was a good conversation. It was a good discussion. What are we doing? What's happening in real time? What are we actually dealing with from the ground grassroots level? So I appreciate everyone showing up and sharing. And that is it for today.
One
Don't
more
log
thing.
off though.
Don't log off. One more thing. Virve just posted the link to the survey. Your feedback is important. Also, we have 2020 through 2022 fatherhood calendars, which are beautiful. So if you want us to send you one, please email Virve